Lately, it feels like something has shifted when it comes to talking about Nintendo. The tone of conversation around Nintendo isn't just skeptical anymore. It isn't just disappointed, it feels heated. Like the temperature has been rising slowly for years, and now it's finally reaching a boiling point. And I think that's worth talking about, because Nintendo hasn't suddenly become a bad company. The games are still strong, the characters are still iconic, the Switch has been wildly successful, and yet, if you spend any amount of time online, you'll see a growing wave of frustration that feels louder, sharper, and more unified than it used to. So what's going on? Well, when I think about it, part of it is expectations. The Switch era has been one of Nintendo's most commercially successful generations ever. When a company is winning this consistently, people expect more features, more polish, more consumer-friendly decisions. Success raises the bar, and when expectations aren't met, even small frustrations feel amplified. Then there's the accumulation effect. Individually, many of the criticisms people have don't seem explosive. Pricing debates, limited time releases, online infrastructure that feels behind competitors, aggressive protection of intellectual property, drip feed legacy content, paid upgrades, accessory pricing, and more. On their own, each issue sparks discussion, but together they start to stack, and when enough of those stacks build up, people stop reacting to individual decisions and start reacting to a pattern. It becomes less about I didn't like this one choice and more about I don't like this at all, I'm tired. There's also a generational shift happening. The audience that grew up with Nintendo in the Wii and DS era, the Blue Ocean era, is older now, more informed, more aware of industry standards, more vocal. They've watched the other companies adopt crossplay, cloud saves, robust online ecosystems, backwards compatibility strategies, and aggressive subscription libraries. So when Nintendo operates differently, sometimes more conservatively, sometimes more traditionally, it doesn't feel charming anymore, it just feels stubborn. And that perception fuels frustration. Social media amplifies all of this. Outrage spreads faster than nuance. A pricing announcement or legal decision can circulate globally in minutes. Stripped of the context and layered with commentary, reactions become reactions to reactions. Before long, it feels like everyone is angry, even if many people are simply mildly annoyed. And once that cycle starts, it feeds itself. Another factor is transparency, or the perceived lack of it. Nintendo historically communicates on its own terms, carefully controlled direct presentations, rarely engaging directly with controversy. That strategy worked well when goodwill was high, but when criticism grows, silence can feel dismissive, even if it isn't intended that way. Fans want reassurance, they want acknowledgement, they want clarity, and when they don't get it, speculation fills the gap. Now, none of this means Nintendo is collapsing. It doesn't mean the company is doomed or that the magic is gone. In fact, the irony is that many of the people voicing the loudest criticisms are the ones who care the most. They love the games, they love the franchises, they want Nintendo to succeed, but in a way that feels aligned with their expectations and modern gaming standards. That passion is powerful, but it can also become volatile. Because when emotional investment meets perceived disappointment, the reaction is very rarely calm or rational. There's also something deeper at play. When Nintendo occupies a unique emotional space like it does, it isn't just a gaming company to many people. It's childhood, it's nostalgia, it's identity. So when decisions feel corporate or distant, the reaction isn't just consumer dissatisfaction, it feels personal. And that's where the boiling points happen. When affection collides with frustration, when loyalty meets fatigue, and when nostalgia meets modern industry realities. The question though isn't whether criticism is valid, much of it is. The real question is, what happens next? Does the criticism lead to constructive pressure, clearer feedback, or does it calcify into hostility, where every announcement is met with cynicism before it's even understood? Because there's a difference between holding a company accountable and assuming the worst at every turn. Nintendo today is navigating an industry that is far more interconnected and transparent than it was 20 years ago. The margin for missteps feels smaller, the response window is shorter, The audience is louder, and yes, the criticism is reaching a boiling point. Nintendo has reinvented itself before. It shifted from playing cards to video games, from cartridges to discs, from Power Focus competition to Blue Ocean disruption, from the Wii U's struggles to the Switch's triumph. The company is not static. So maybe the current moment isn't a collapse, maybe it's tension before transition. Maybe it's the growing pains of an audience that expects more from a company it deeply cares about. Or maybe it's simply the inevitable consequence of long-term success meeting long-term expectations. Either way, the conversation is louder than it's been in years, and what happens next, from Nintendo and from its fans, even from its very extremely loud haters, will shape what the next era looks like, because boiling points don't last forever. Eventually, something will change. But what do you think? Do you think the criticism has gotten really out of hand? Or do you think the criticism is justified and Nintendo needs a failure to be humbled again? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Bye-bye. On their own, each issue... Jeez. On their own, each issue... Jesus! On their own, each issue sparks discussion.